Enter chorus. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene. So we're going to highlight this part, both alike, right off the bat, because it's emphasizing that the two households, the Montagues and the Capulets, are equal. One's not better than the other. They are both equal to each other. And they'll repeat this a lot, especially through the first act. So this is not the first time we're going to see this. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene. This just refers to the city where the play is going to take place. From ancient grudge, break to new mutiny. So we're highlighting these two parts, ancient grudge and new mutiny, because what they're talking about here is that this is a grudge that has been going on for years and years and years. However, during this time of the play, we're entering kind of a new era of this grudge. So we're going to see new people involved, new types of violence. This is a new era in this long-standing feud. Is feud F-U-E-D or F-E-U-D? I guess I'll have to figure it out because we're going to see this word a lot throughout this play. F-E-U-D, feud. Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. This is another important part. Civil emphasizes this idea that innocent people are involved in this feud. People who had no part in whatever happened originally. And we never find out throughout the play why the Montagues and Capulets hate each other. We only see the destruction that this hatred causes. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. So these two lines are emphasizing how Romeo and Juliet, their relationship is doomed from the start. They even call their parents' relationship fatal. This whole union was doomed from the beginning. And then that's what that word star-crossed means as well. That they are meant to be together, but it's not going to work out. Whose misadventures, piteous overthrows, doth with their death bury their parents' strife. So the only thing that could have stopped this feud is, unfortunately, the death of these two children, which we will see at the end. And again, F-U-E-D, feud. The fearful passage of their death-marked love. Again, they've said it about 3 times. Fatal loins, star-crossed, death-marked love. They are telling us these two characters will not survive. In the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end naught could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage. The which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to end. So they're basically setting up what's been happening so far in Verona and what is going to happen next in the play. Okay, moving right along into Act 1, we start with these two servants, Samson and Gregory, and they're both servants of the house of Capulet, so that's important. We're starting with these two servants in the street. So a lot of these sections with the servants we might move quickly through or skip over. They're mostly used for comedic relief, but they are also used to comment on the actions of the upper class, which we'll see when we get to, especially the nurse's character later on. So in this section, we have these two men walking around, and they're talking about how tough they are, how I strike quickly being moved. Even a dog of the house of Montague moves me. So we're seeing here that this feud is not just between the two fathers, Montague and Capulet. This feud trickles down to everybody, including the servants. And again, I'm spelling feud wrong here. Sorry, guys. So they're acting very tough, but we'll see in a minute, perhaps, that it's all just bravado. A dog of that house shall move me to stand. I will take the wall of any man or maid of Montague's. That shows thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall. 'Tis true, and therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thrust to the wall. Therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall, and thrust his maids to the wall. The quarrel is between our masters and us, their men. So again, they're emphasizing that it's not just between these two heads of the families. This comes between everybody. The heads of the maids? Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take in it what sense thou wilt. They must take it in, since that they feel it. Me they shall feel while I am able to stand. 'Tis known I am a pretty piece of flesh. They're being gross. 'Tis well thou art not fish. If thou hadst been poor John. Draw thy tool. Here comes of the house of Montagues. Okay, so now we're seeing the Montague servants come in, and these two guys have a little funny banter. Quarrel, I will back thee. How? Turn thy back and run? So he's saying, if you fight them, I'll back you up. But the other guy doesn't believe him. He thinks he's going to run away. Fear me not. No, marry, I fear thee. Let us take the law of our sides. Let them begin. So this is another important part of the play where they are mindful of the law. There is no public fighting in the streets. So they're going to do their best to insult the other servants of this family to try to get them to start the fight. And they're going to make a very rude gesture. No, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I do bite my thumb. And they go back and forth about, do you want to fight? Do you want to fight? Do you want to fight? Trying to get the other person to start it. And it ends with them again acknowledging that their masters are equal to each other. I serve a man as well as you, no better. Well, sir. And now we meet one of our other main characters, Benvolio. Again, they're equal to each other. So then, now that they see one of their friends coming, they say, quickly, say that we serve someone better so that we have this guy here to help us fight. Yes, better, sir. You lie. Draw if you be men, draw your swords. Gregory, remember thy washing blow. It's another fighting in the streets. And this is our first introduction to Romeo's cousin, Benvolio. He says, this is his first line, part fools, put up your swords, you know not what you do. So while these servants are trying to impress Benvolio, we see that he is not impressed. He doesn't like the fighting. He does not want them to fight. He is trying to maintain the peace, or at least not continue with the open violence and bloodshed in the streets. And then right after, we get our first intro to Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. He says, what art thou drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, look upon thy death. So this is our intro to Tybalt. He is the opposite of Benvolio. They are character foils to each other. So while Benvolio is trying to keep the peace, Tybalt is not. He is a huge believer in this fight. He is down for any violence that comes with it. We even see in the stage directions, he enters with his sword already out. And this is our first introduction to him. He's always ready for a fight. Then we'll scooch back down to line 70 to pick up where Benvolio left off. I do but keep the peace. Put up thy swords or manage it to part these men with me. So either put your sword away or use it to help me break up this fight. He's trying to build a bridge between the Capulets and the Montagues, but we will see in a minute that Tybalt is not down for that. He says, what, drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word, as I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee. Have at thee, coward. So it's interesting that he hates the word peace. He says that. This is continuing that our two character foils, Tybalt and Benvolio. It's also interesting to note the three things that he says he hates. Hell, all the Montagues, and Benvolio. so we can see just how much violence is in his blood. And the citizens are not having it. Clubs, bills, and partisans strike, beat them down with the Capulets, down with the Montagues. They, again, emphasizing that these two men are equal, but that also the town has had enough with both of them. They are done with all of these fights. They are done with this stupid feud, and they are not going to take it anymore. And then we see our two heads of household, Lady Capulet and Montague and Lady Montague. And Capulet says, "What noise is this? Give me my long sword, ho." And Lady Capulet says, a crutch, why call you for a sword?" And Capulet says, "My word, I say, old Montague has come and flourishes his blade in spite of me." And Montague sees this, he says, "Thou villain Capulet, hold me not, let me go." But Lady Montague is not allowing it. "Thou shalt not stir 1 foot to seek a foe." So both men, they're like dogs. As soon as they see each other, they're barking at each other. But the women are not having it. They do not want their husbands to fight. And ultimately, they do listen. So now we have our prince. He says, "Rebellious subjects, enemies to peace." The prince has had enough of them. He's calling them rebellious, saying that they are enemies to peace. They are disturbing our town. "Profaners of this neighbor-stained steel." Neighbor-stained? The blades of the swords are stained with blood. "Will they not hear? What ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fire of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins." So they're satisfying their rage and their hatred for each other with actual violence and bloodshed. "On pain of torture from those bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground, and hear the sentence of your moved prince. 3 civil brawls, bred of an airy word, by thee, old Capulet and Montague, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets, and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments to wield old partisans and hands as old, cankered with peace to part your cankered hate." So he's saying, stop or I'll arrest you. On pain of torture, throw your weapons down. 3 times you have disturbed our streets with this stupid fighting, and I'm done with it. You're bothering me, you're bothering the townspeople, and then we'll get his threat in a minute. So at the bottom, this is his parting message to Capulet and Montague. "If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of peace. For this time all the rest depart away. You, Capulet, shall go along with me, and Montague come you this afternoon, to know our further pleasure in this case. To old Freetown, our common judgment place. Once more, on pain of death, all men depart." So he's saying if there is another instance of violence between you guys because of this fight, I will kill you both. I'm done with it. So the prince means business. So remember that. We saw the servants earlier being very mindful of the law and being careful not to be the instigator in the fights. And now we see that the prince really does mean business. He's tired of this. So now we're going to focus on our Montague characters for a little bit. And this is Montague talking to his nephew. "Who set this ancient quarrel new abroach? Who started this fight? Speak, nephew, were you by when it began?" And he says, "Here, servants of your adversary," the Capulets started it, "and yours, close fighting ere I did approach. I drew to part them. In the instant came the fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared." We talked about that earlier. Tybalt was ready to fight. Fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared. This is some important characterization for Tybalt right here. "Which as he breathed defiance to my ears, he swung about his head and cut the winds. Who, nothing hurt withal, hissed him in scorn." This is another interesting part. Tybalt doesn't actually hurt anyone in this scene. He just swings his sword around to show that he is a powerful guy. While we were interchanging thrusts and blows, came more and fought on part and part, till the prince came who parted either part. So he's talking about how the fight continued to grow and grow, more people are getting involved until the prince came and broke it up. And Lady Montague says, "Oh, where is Romeo? Saw you him today? Right glad I am he was not at this fray." She's glad that Romeo was not around to be here. And then we get more about Romeo down at the bottom. "Madame, an hour before the worshipped sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind drove me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore that westward rooteth from the city side, so early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was aware of me, and stole into the covert of the wood. I, measuring his affections by my own, which then most sought where most might not be found, being one too many of my weary self, pursued my humor, not pursuing his, and gladly shunned who fled from me." So Romeo does not want to be around people. He's been up early in the morning walking around outside. And Montague confirms this. "Many a morning hath he there been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning's dew." He's been crying, adding to clouds more clouds with his deep sighs. So we're seeing that Romeo is avoiding other people. He seems to be depressed. He doesn't want to talk about it. And now we're going to find out what is wrong. "But all so soon as the all-cheering sun should in the farthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from light steals home my heavy son." So whenever the sun comes up in the morning, he comes home. "Away from light," I already said that. "And private in his chamber pens himself, shuts up his windows, locks fair daylight out, and makes himself an artificial night. Black and portentous must this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove." So Montague is kind of elbowing Benvolio here. See, he's really sad unless somebody can maybe talk to him and figure out what's wrong. And Benvolio says, "My noble uncle, do you know the cause?" Montague says, "I neither know it nor can learn it from him." So Romeo's not telling anybody what is wrong. And we'll add that in. And Benvolio says, "Well, have you asked? Have you importuned him by any means?" Both by myself and many other friends, but he his own affection's counselor is to himself, I will not say how true, but to himself so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with an envious worm, ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, or dedicate his beauty to the same. Could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we could as willingly give cure as no. If we knew it was wrong, we could help, but we don't. And here comes Romeo. "I'll see where he comes, so please you step aside. I'll know his grievance, or be much denied. I would thou wert so happy by thy stay, to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away." So Benvolio is going to talk to Romeo and try to figure out what's wrong. We're going to add in our little gists and notes for this section before we move on to the next page. Benvolio is going to figure it out. And here begins his investigation. "Good morrow, cousin. Is the day so young?" Romeo's like, "Man, is it still so early?" "But new struck 9. Ay me, sad hours seem long. Was that my father that went hence so fast?" "It was. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours? Not having them, which having makes them short. In love? Out. Of love? Out of her favor where I am in love." So we get here a couple of lines about how sadness seems to make the time go slower, whereas love and happiness will make the days go by faster. So Romeo says that his days are very long now that he has no love in his life. And the reason for him being so sad is because the girl he likes does not like him back. He is out of her favor. Alas, that love, so gentle in his view, should be so tyrannous and rough in proof. Benvolio really sums up some of the themes of this play in just those 2 lines. He talks about how love seems so wonderful, and Romeo as a character really idealizes this idea of a chivalric romance, old-fashioned love, etc. However, when he tries to pursue it in real life, it seems to always be disastrous. Because, as Romeo will find out, love is not like in the poems he loves and reads and writes. Love is actually difficult in reality. And he's learning that now with the girl he currently likes, and he's going to learn that lesson again with Juliet later in the play. Alas, that love, whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh me, what fray was here? Yet tell me not, for I have heard it all. There's much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create, O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I, that feel no love in this. Dost thou not laugh? No, coz. Rather I weep. Good heart, at what? So we have a lot of oxymorons in this speech. Brawling love, loving hate, heavy lightness. And again, they're talking about how Romeo has a very idealized version of love and relationships in his head, but the truth of love and relationships is that it's not always so glossy. This is our introduction to Romeo as the lover archetype, which we'll learn more about later. And Benvolio weeps at thy good heart's oppression. I'm sad because you're sad, man. Why, such is love's transgression. Griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which thou wilt propagate to have it pressed with more of thine. This love that thou hast shown doth add more grief to much of my own. Love is a smoke made with the fume of sighs, being purged, a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes, being vexed, a sea nourished with loving tears. What is it else? A madness most discreet, a choking gall, and a preserving sweet. Farewell, my coz. So he's talking about how love is hard. And it does involve, is love a madness that takes over you? Is love a sea of tears? Who knows? Soft I will go along, and if you leave me so, you do me wrong. Tut, I have lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He's some other where. Tell me in sadness, who is it you love? What, shall I groan and tell thee? Groan, why no, but sadly, tell me who. A sick man in sadness makes his will, a word ill urged to one that is so ill. In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman. I aimed so near when I supposed you loved. Benvolio is saying, I knew it, I knew you were in love, and that's why you're upset. A right good marksman, and she's fair, I love. A right fair mark, fair coz, as soonest hit. Well, in that hit you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow. She hath Diane's wit, and in proof of chastity well armed. So she's not interested in relationships. From love's weak childish bow she lives uncharmed. She is not impressed by lovers. She will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor by the encounter of assailing eyes, nor open her lap to saint-seducing gold. She is rich in beauty, only poor that when she dies, with beauty dies her store. So it's interesting that when Romeo is describing this girl, he really only describes her beauty. He does not give us any insight into her personality, only says that she's beautiful and she doesn't want me, which I guess is all he cares about right now. Then she hath sworn she will live chaste. That means she's never going to get married. She hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty starved with her severity, cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead, that live to tell it now. So again, Romeo only focuses on his outward beauty. He says that she's too pretty to not get married. She makes a huge waste. Be ruled by me. Forget to think of her. So Benvolio wants him to forget about this girl. Oh, teach me how I should forget. By giving liberty unto thine eyes, examine other beauties. So forget her by seeing other women. 'Tis the way to call hers exquisite in question more. These happy mess that kiss fair ladies' brows being black puts us in mind they hide the fair. He that is struck and blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve but as a note, where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell, thou canst not teach me to forget. And Romeo's saying, no one's going to be as good as her. No one can make me forget about this girl that I love. And we don't know her name yet. That doctrine, or else die in debt, meaning he will figure it out. Scene 2 opens with us in our meeting with Capulet, Paris, and the prince. Capulet says, but Montague is bound as well as I, in penalty alike, and 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as us to keep the peace. So he's basically saying that Capulet was at fault too. Again, emphasizing that they are both equal to each other. Montague is equally at fault for this as Capulet is. And he's also kind of winking at the audience saying, oh, we're so old, we can't really fight anymore. But we know that the servants are the ones that are carrying out the actual fighting. And then we continue with Paris. Of honorable reckoning are you both. Again, emphasizing that they are equal. They're both good men. And pity 'tis you lived at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit? And Capulet says, but saying over what I have said before, my child is yet a stranger in the world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride. So Paris has already asked to marry Juliet, asking permission from her father. He says that she is still too young. She's still 13. She hasn't turned 14 yet. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, wait 2 more years, and then we can reconsider this marriage proposal. And then Paris responds, younger than she are happy mothers made, meaning that other girls get married even younger than Juliet. And we can imagine all of the horrifying implications of that sentence. And Capulet responds, and too soon marred are those so early made. Earth hath swallowed all my hopes but she. She's the hopeful lady of my earth. But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part. And she agreed, within her scope of choice lies my consent and fair according voice. This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest, such as I love, and you among the store. One more most welcome makes my number more, and my poor house to look to behold this night, earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. Such comfort as do lusty young men feel, when well-apparelled April on the heel of limping winter treads, even such delight. So in this scene, Capulet is responding that, yes, the women that are married too early are marred, basically ruined by their marriage, and that Juliet is really the only thing that makes him happy these days. He also asserts that it isn't just his choice to make who Juliet marries. He wants Paris to get her to want him too. So he says, my will to her consent, my say is only a part of this whole proposal. You have to do the work and get her to like you, date her, propose to her yourself. So we're seeing a rare glimpse of agency. Not only is Capulet allowing Juliet to have agency in this decision, but he's supporting that. He's not just saying my way or the highway. And we don't see that very often in these types of stories. Moving along, among fresh fennel buds shall you see this night, inherit at my house. Here all see, and like her most, whose merit most shall be. So whoever she likes most is going to be the one who gets to marry her. Which on more view of many, mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come go with me. And then he's going to give his servant the invitational list. Go, Sirrah, trudge about through fair Verona, find those patrons out whose names are written here, and to them say my house and welcome on their pleasure stay. And then we're seeing a little bit more humor with the servant class. He's stressed because he's been given this task to invite all these guests, but he can't read. He says, find them out whose names are written here. It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard, and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil, and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find what names the writing Perthon hath here writ. I must to the learned, in good time. So he's saying he's going to go find someone who can read and get that person to help him out. And now we're going to switch scenes back to Benvolio and Romeo. He says, Tut! Man, one fire burns out, another is burning. One pain is lessened by another's anguish. Turn giddy and be helped by backward turning. One desperate grief cures another's languish. Take thou some new infection in thine eye, and the rank poison of the old will die. Basically, just replace one girl with another. And then they bicker back and forth. Your plantain leaf is excellent for that. For what, I pray thee? For your broken shin. Why, Romeo, art thou mad? Not mad, but bound more than a madman is. Shut up in prison, kept without food, whipped and tormented, and good fellow. So without love, he feels trapped, like he feels like the girl he has a crush on is playing him, basically. And then we get the servant from earlier, finding his learned men. He asks, I pray, sir, can you read? Romeo says, I, mine own fortune and my misery. So he's being sarcastic here, but unfortunately the servant doesn't get it. He says, perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see? Romeo says, I, if I know the letters in the language. You say honestly, rest you merry. Stay, fellow, I can read. And then we get our invitational list, including mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline and Livia, Signor Valentino and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio, and the lively Helena. A fair assembly, whither should they come? Up. Whither? To supper? To our house. Whose house? My master's. Indeed, I should have asked you that before. Now I'll tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet, and if you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray, come and crush a glass of wine. Rest you merry. So the servant has mistakenly invited Romeo and Benvolio to this party, although he does say you can come, but only if you're not a Montague. So it's a little bit of error on both their parts. And Benvolio is saying, Rosaline is going to be at this feast. So Rosaline is the name of the girl that Romeo has been talking about this whole time. She's actually Juliet's cousin. However, we do not meet Rosaline throughout the story. She doesn't come on stage, but she is there in the background. And then Benvolio continues, compare her face with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow. So he's basically saying that there are going to be other women at this party. I'll introduce you to some. And these girls are going to be so pretty, you're not even going to think about Rosaline anymore. And we'll continue. When the devout religion of mine eye maintains such falsehood, then tears turn to fire, and these who often drown could never die. Transparent heretics, be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love, the all-seeing sun never saw her match since first the world begun. So in this section, he's talking about how basically that's impossible. There's nobody that could be as pretty as Rosaline. Don't even try. Another interesting point about these lines that Romeo has is that it's one of our many introductions into the role that religion plays throughout this play. At the time, Italy was mostly Catholic, so the religion they reference is Catholicism. A lot of times, Romeo and Juliet compare their love to religion. You'll see a lot of religious imagery in the next couple of scenes when they first meet. And then we meet our one religious character, Friar Lawrence, later on in the play. Romeo calls Benvolio a heretic here for even suggesting that there could be another girl that's prettier than Rosaline. So again, with the religious theming throughout this play. Benvolio says, "Tut, you saw her fair, none else being by, herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid, that I will show you, shining at this feast. She shall scant show how well that now seems best. I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendor of mine own." So they're just reiterating what we already talked about before. In scene 2 is where we get our first real introduction to the inner workings of the Capulet family, including Lady Capulet, the nurse, and Juliet herself. At the bottom, the nurse says, "Now by my maidenhead at 12-year-old, I bade her come." So this is one of the first of many references to Juliet's innocence and her growing up that we get, especially in this scene. And Juliet says, "How now? Who calls?" "Your mother." "Madam, I am here. What is your will?" "This is the matter. Nurse, give leave a while. We must talk in secret." "Nurse, come back again. I have remembered me. Thou'st hear our counsel. Thou knowest my daughter's of a pretty age." "Faith, I can tell her age unto an hour. She's not 14. I'll lay 14 at my teeth, and yet, to my teen be it spoken, I have but 4. She's not 14. How long is it now to Lamonstide?" "A fortnight and odd days." So we're not going to get into exactly what the nurse is saying here, because we'll see it's mostly nonsense later on. But basically she's telling a story about her daughter, Susan, who was around the same age as Juliet, but is now past. And basically talking about happy moments that she has raising both of them together. And the point of this is that the nurse just goes on and on and on when Lady Capulet and Juliet are trying to discuss this issue of marrying Paris. And her story ends with the nurse's husband, who is also deceased, making inappropriate jokes about Juliet as a little girl. He says, "Dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backwards when thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jule?" And he made her cry as a little girl. So this is important because we're seeing from the very beginning that Juliet has been sexualized since she was a child. This is again hearkening back to this idea of fate. From the very beginning, Juliet has been fated to be a wife and be a bride. We get that in the prologue. We get that when we hear that Juliet has this semi-arranged marriage with Paris, and we see it again here. And later in the scene, the nurse actually reiterates that same crude joke. So we're getting more about our fate here, and also how women are treated in 16th century England. So Lady Capulet tries to cut her off. She says, "Enough of this, I pray thee, hold my peace." However, Lady Capulet cannot stop the nurse because she has a whole nother paragraph basically saying the same thing. However, who is able to stop her? Juliet, she says, "And stint thou too, I pray thee, nurse, say I." And immediately the nurse says, "Peace, I have done. God mark thee to his grace, thou wast the prettiest babe that I ever nursed, and I might live to see thee married. I have my wish." So everyone really just wants her to get married. And that's really all that we learn about Juliet throughout this play. We don't really get much background about her personality or what her interests are. Just that the people around her want her to get married. And at the beginning, she seems to express little to no interest in that proposition. We'll get into it in a minute. "Mary, that Mary is the very theme I came to talk of. Tell me, daughter Juliet, how stands your disposition to be married?" "It is an honor that I dream not of." So her mother is asking her, "How do you feel about getting married?" And Juliet says, "It is not something I think about. It is an honor I dream not of." She is not really interested in marriage at this point. And unfortunately, the other characters in this scene focus on the wrong thing. "An honor, were not I thine only nurse, I would say thou hast sucked the wisdom from my teen." So they're focusing on how Juliet calls marriage an honor, not the fact that she doesn't want to get married. And we'll keep going. We'll think of marriage now. Younger than you here in Verona, ladies of esteem are already made mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon these years that you are now a maid. Thus then, in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love. So she's basically mirroring what Paris said earlier about how women younger than Juliet have already been married, are already mothers, and Lady Capulet even says herself that when I was your age, I was already your mom. So you need to get on it. And the nurse says, a man, young lady. Lady, such a man as all the world, why he's a man of wax. Verona's summer hath not such a flower. Nay, he's a flower, in faith, a very flower. What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our feast. Read over the volume of young Paris's face, and find every delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content. For what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margin of his eyes. This precious book of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him only lacks a cover. The fish lives in the sea, and 'tis much pride. So this is where Lady Capulet goes over all the reasons that Juliet should consider getting married. She talks about how he's handsome, he's a gentleman, marriage makes people happy, other women are married younger than you. She goes through many different reasons. Even saying that you can complete him. He's a book that only needs a cover. For fair without the fair within to hide, that book in many's eyes doth share the glory, that in gold clasps locks in the golden story. So shall you share all that he doth possess, by having him making yourself no less. That marriage is only going to make Juliet better. It's only going to get better for her. And the nurse says, no less, nay bigger, women grow by men. This is another one of our inappropriate jokes from the nurse. She's talking about pregnancy. And that's why women grow after they get married. Speak briefly. Can you like of Paris's love? I'll look to like, if looking liking move, but no more deep will I endart mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly. So this is when we're seeing more of Juliet's agency. She's saying, I will meet him, but I'm not agreeing to marry him or even love him. She's only going to put in exactly as much effort and enthusiasm as her mother is asking her. No more, no less. Madam, the guests are come, supper served up, you called. My young lady asked for, the nurse cursed in the pantry, and everything in extremity. I must hence to wait, I beseech you, follow straight. We follow thee. Juliet, the county stays. And then we get another nice line from her nurse at the very end. Go, girl, seek happy nights to happy days. Basically, have fun at the party. So we're kind of seeing that maybe the nurse and Juliet have the real mother-daughter relationship, whereas that's not really something that Lady Capulet and Juliet have. Scene 4 takes us to Romeo and his friends. This is the first time we're going to meet one of his main friends, Mercutio. He kind of serves as partially comic relief, but also partially a nobleman. He kind of toes that line, and we'll see that in a minute. Mercutio's lines are very dense. He does a lot of wordplay. In this scene, he's talking about how they're going to go to this party, they're going to put themselves in disguise so that none of the Capulets are going to recognize them. And we're seeing lots of wordplay. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf, bearing a Tartar's painted bow of lath, scaring the ladies like a crow keeper, but let them measure us by what they will. We'll measure them a measure and be gone. So we'll just look around and then we'll go. Romeo is not in the mood. He says, give me a torch. I am not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light. Romeo does not want to go to this party. He's not in the mood for having fun. We know why. He's hung up by Rosalind. He doesn't want to see her. Mercutio says, "Nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance." "Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead, so stakes me to the ground. I cannot move." So we're seeing more of this wordplay. Nimble soles, soul of lead. Those are homophones. And he's saying he's too sad to dance. His soul is made of lead. Mercutio calls him, "You are a lover." This is more of our Romeo is the lover archetype. "Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound." So find someone that likes you back and enjoy yourself. Don't be hung up on this girl. We get more wordplay down here. "I am too sore and pierced with his shaft." I can't because he's already gotten me with his arrow and it hurts. "To soar with his light feathers. And so bound I cannot move, bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sink." He is too sad to find somebody. "And to sink in it, should you burden love? Too great oppression for such a tender thing." Is love a tender thing? It is too rough, too rude, too boisterous, and it pricks like thorn. So again, this is a contrast between Romeo's idealization of love versus the reality of love. He has this very romanticized view of love and relationships, very chivalric, very medieval, knight and princess, etc. However, Romeo finds out that love is not the way it is in the poems he likes to read. But Mercutio tells him to fight back. "If love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down." So he's basically telling him, fight back. Don't let yourself get beaten down. "Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in but every man betake him to his legs. A torch for me, let wantons of light of heart tickle the senseless rushes with their heels, for I am proverbed with a Grancher phrase, I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was never so fair, and I am done." Down at the bottom, we get another famous exchange between Romeo and Mercutio. Romeo says, "I dreamt a dream last night, and so did I. Well, what was yours? That dreamers often lie. In bed asleep while they do dream things true. Oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you." So Queen Mab is the fairy queen that supposedly brings dreams to sleeping people. And on the next page, we're going to get into Mercutio's multiple lines all about Queen Mab. He kind of goes on this nonsensical rant. We're not going to read the whole thing, but we are going to hit the high parts. So the first section of this big long speech is all describing Queen Mab. He says she is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone, on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomi over men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes made of long spinner's legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, her traces of the smallest spiderweb, her collars of the moonshine's watery beams, her wicks of cricket bone, the lash of film, her wagoner a small gray-coated net. And then at the bottom we get more what kind of dreams she brings. And we notice that she brings dreams to basically what the people want to dream about. In lovers' brains, they dream of love. Lawyers, they dream of money. On ladies, they dream of kisses. Each person dreams of what they want, or something that's otherwise associated with them. However, as the dreams go on, we see that Mercutio kind of spirals into a nonsensical rant about all of the different dreams that people could have. And it gets violent towards the bottom, where we see, sometimes she driveth over a soldier's neck, and then he dreams of cutting foreign throats. So we see more of that theme of violence throughout this play. And then at the very end of the rant is when Mercutio really goes off the rails, and it talks about this fairy queen as a hag who brings dreams to young girls, etc. And Romeo ends up cutting him off, saying, "Peace, peace, Mercutio, peace. Thou talk'st of nothing." He talks of nothing. And Mercutio says, "True, I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin of substance as the air, and more inconstant than the wind, who woos even now the frozen bosom of the north, and being angered puffs away from thence, turning his side to the dew-dropping south." So he's basically acknowledging that dreams are nothing. They're fantasy. It's as thin as the air, inconstant as the wind. And we're kind of seeing, he's talking about his rant, of course, but he's also kind of talking about Romeo himself. Romeo, again, has this very idealized version of love and romance. He has this dream woman, this dream relationship that he is looking for. And Mercutio is kind of calling him out on it, that this is nothing. Your dreams are just dreams, and they're not going to come true. You got to start living in the reality. And Benvolio, our practical one, is tired of it. This wind we talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done, and we shall come too late. And then we get a very famous line from Romeo. "I fear too early, for my mind misgives some consequence, yet hanging in the stars, shall bitterly begin this fearful date, with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised life close to my breast, by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail. On, lusty gentlemen." So Romeo is getting this weird feeling. He's saying that he's worried something bad is going to happen that will start tonight by them going to this party. So we're getting more of this theme of Romeo and Juliet's fate. He feels like something bad is going to happen tonight and will ultimately end in someone I'm close to dying. However, at the very end of this speech, he says, "But he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail." So basically saying, I'm worried something bad is going to happen, that this night will end, will start something in motion that will end tragically. But whatever happens, happens. And whoever is in charge of directing the course of my life, notice how he doesn't say religion. This is not one of the instances where we get a religious overtone in this play. He's leaving his fate up to the stars, whoever he thinks is in charge. Scene 5 is our last scene of Act 1. It opens with servants cleaning up after the Capulets party. And they're talking about all of the stuff that they have to do. And they're missing somebody. Where's Pot Pan that he helps not to take away? They're looking for one of their fellow servants who is supposed to be helping them, but has left somewhere. And then we get Capulet at the bottom inviting all of his guests to his party. We know that one of the many reasons that Capulet has set up this party is so that Paris will get a chance to talk to Juliet so they can meet and possibly start dating. And at the bottom we get a little bit of Capulet talking to his cousin about this. He's saying, "When was the last time you and I were doing this?" when they were trying to find their wives. And Capulet says, "About 30 years ago." And they kind of go on to talk about their children and the other people around them that have grown up and have children already. And at the bottom of this page is when we get into Romeo and Juliet meeting for the first time. We see Romeo sees Juliet from across the room, and he says, "She doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady over her follows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers, make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now? Forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night. And he uses a lot of figurative language to describe how beautiful Juliet is. Again, we're seeing Romeo is focusing mainly on the outward appearance of these women. He says that she teaches the torches to burn bright. It's a metaphor. She looks like a rich jewel, a little simile. She is a snowy dove among crows, another metaphor. And at the bottom is our famous line, "Did my heart love till now? I never saw true beauty till this night." He's talking about how Juliet is the most beautiful girl in the world. Even though Romeo said earlier that Rosaline was actually the most beautiful girl in the world. So maybe we don't trust Romeo's judgment too much. And then on the next page, we get into some tension when Tybalt recognizes Romeo's voice. He says, "Fetch me my rapier," that's a knife. "What dares the slave come hither covered with an antic face to fleer and scorn at our solemnity? Now by the stock and honor of my kin, to strike him dead, I hold it not a sin." So this is a very important line. Despite being religious, Tybalt says he does not think it would be a sin if he were to kill Romeo. So he's basically expressing his desire, perhaps intentions, to kill Romeo. It's also interesting that he immediately thinks that Romeo must be here to ruin the party. He's here to scorn at our solemnity, and he repeats that again later down in the page. And Capulet catches him. "Why, how now, kinsman? Wherefore storm you so?" "Uncle, this is a Montague, our foe, a villain that is hither come in spite to scorn at our solemnity this night." He calls Romeo a villain. "Young Romeo, is it? 'Tis he, that villain Romeo." "Content thee, gentle coz, let him alone. He bears him like a portly gentleman, and to say truth, Verona brags of him to be a virtuous and well-governed youth. I would not for the wealth of all this town here in my house do him disparagement. Therefore be patient. Take no note of him. It is my will, the which, if thou respect, show a fair presence and put off these frowns, an ill-beseeming semblance for a feast." So Capulet is discouraging Tybalt in this scene, saying that everybody likes Romeo, besides he's just a kid. And especially now, after what the prince said, we are definitely not going to be causing trouble for him in this house. We are not about to get in trouble again. And he's also saying, it's a party, lighten up, enjoy yourself. But Tybalt is not having it. He says, "It fits when such a villain is a guest. I'll not endure him." Tybalt is not going to have it. I'm not going to tolerate him. And this is when Capulet really loses it. He says, "He shall be endured." "What, good man? I say he shall. Go to. Am I the master here or you? Go to. You'll not endure him. God shall mend my soul." He's really going off. Well, who's in charge here, me or you? And he continues, "You'll make a mutiny among my guests." Basically, you're going to ruin this party. He's really telling Tybalt off, and Tybalt is upset about that. "Why, uncle, 'tis a shame." Go to. You are a saucy boy." That means, you're talking back, giving attitude. "Is it so indeed? This trick may chance to scathe you. I know what. You must contrary me. Marry, 'tis time. Well said, my heart. You are a prince cox. Go. Be quiet, or more light. For shame, I'll make you quiet. What? Surely, my hearts." So he's kind of going back and forth between telling off Tybalt and talking to the rest of his party guests. And then we get a very famous and important line before Tybalt X's. He says, "Patience perforce with will for choler meeting makes my flesh tremble in their different greeting. I will withdraw, but this intrusion shall, now seeming sweet, convert to bitterest gall." Saying, I'll let it go this time because my uncle asked me to, but I'm not going to forget what you did this night. Remember, he is not giving Romeo the benefit of the doubt. He thinks that Romeo is here for bad reasons, and Tybalt is not going to let that go. And then we get our famous first meeting between Romeo and Juliet. So this is actually interesting because the first 14 lines that they speak together make up a sonnet, which is it's type of poem that's mostly about love. Shakespeare wrote many of them, although he is not the originator of this type of poetry. And this is where we're getting a bulk of our religious imagery. We talked earlier about how religion is a large theme within this play, especially when it comes to Romeo and Juliet's relationship, and this is where we see the first glimpses of that here. Romeo says, "If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle sin is this. My lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss." He's basically saying that he doesn't feel that he's worthy enough to be touching her because she's so beautiful, like he said earlier. And then Juliet, very innocent, "Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much. Which mannerly devotion shows in this? For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss." So again, basically in this scene, Romeo presents himself as a pilgrim, which is someone who devotes themselves to a particular saint or other religious figure. And Juliet is the saint that he has devoted himself to. And so they do a little bit of wordplay about how saints have hands, they can hold hands, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss, meaning putting your hands together, that's how people pray. And then eventually they say, "Let lips do what hands do." Basically, if our hands can touch each other, can their lips touch each other? And they do, they kiss each other. "Then move not while my prayer's effect I take. Thus from my lips by thine my sin is purged. Then have my lips the sin that they have took. Sin from my lips, O trespass sweetly urged, give me my sin again. You kiss by the book." So this is our first introduction to Romeo and Juliet and their relationship. They kiss twice before Juliet is called away. And we also see how Juliet transforms throughout this scene. In the first part, when they're talking, it is very innocent. Juliet is basically just kind of responding to whatever Romeo says to her, while at the end, she encourages him to kiss her again with her line, "Then have my lips the sin that they have took." So basically saying, Romeo is talking about how by kissing her, she has taken his sin away. She says, "Well, now I have the sin that you just gave me," and Romeo kisses her again to take it back, quote unquote. "Madam, your mother craves a word with you." "What is her mother?" "Mary Bachelor, her mother is the lady of the house, and a good lady, a wise and virtuous. I nursed her daughter that you talk withal. I tell you, he that can lay hold of her shall have the chinks." So the nurse reveals that Juliet is a Capulet, and she already knows who Romeo is. And Romeo feels despair about this. "Is she a Capulet? Oh, dear account, my life is my foe's debt." So the person that he loves is his enemy, and he doesn't know what to do about it. And then we don't get a chance to find out what Romeo's thoughts on this because Benvolio calls them away. "Away, be gone, the sport is at its best. This party isn't fun anymore, let's get out of here." "I so I fear, the more is my unrest." "Nay, gentlemen, prepare not to be gone. We have a trifling foolish banquet towards. Is it even so? Why then I thank you all. I thank you, honest gentlemen. Good night. More torches here. Come on then, let's to bed." "Come hither, nurse. What is yon gentleman? The son and heir of old Tiberio. What's he that now is going out the door? Marry, that I think may be the young Petruchio. What's that he follows there, that would not dance? I know not. Go ask his name. If he be married, my grave is like to my wedding bed. If he's married, I'll die. My grave will be my wedding bed. His name is Romeo, and a Montague, the only son of your great enemy." Again, the nurse is the one who's revealing this information to both Romeo and to Juliet. "My only love sprung from my only hate, too early seen unknown and known too late. Prodigious birth of love it is to me that I must love a loathed enemy." So Juliet is talking about basically how she feels cursed, that the only guy she's ever liked is someone she can't have, a Montague. "My only love sprung from my only hate." that I must love a loathed enemy. So again, this idea of fate and feeling trapped by your fate. Juliet knows that she's in love with Romeo, and they both kind of already know that they are on this path that really can only end one way. Although they don't know that yet. What's this? What's this? A rhyme I learned even now, of one I danced withal. Anon, anon, come, let's away, the strangers are all gone.